Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the buildingSMART Annual General Meeting for 2024. So we've just got a few of our board just waiting to join, so apologies we're a couple of minutes late. I'll share my screen, just give me a second. Okay. Yeah, so welcome to those who are attending, and welcome to our board. So your annual general meeting for 2024. It's been quite a good year for buildingSMART. So we'll do a bit of we'll go through the formalities of the AGM, and then we'll go through a few of the highlights. All of you who are attendees are on mute at the moment. We will hopefully have some time for Q&A at the end of the AGM. So you can just post your questions in the Q&A tab within the Teams meeting. If we have time, I think I can unmute people if we've got some specific questions that we want to run through, but we'll go through the formalities. I think the majority of the board is here, but I think they'll be joining if they haven't. So we'll start with acknowledgement of country. So buildingSMART Australasia acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands in which we work and live. We recognise their continuing connection to land, sea and water, and acknowledge and celebrate the inherent strengths of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and communities. We're committed to a positive future as we move forward together on our journey of reconciliation. This is the current board for 2024. So I think they're all of them on the call. So with myself, Holger de Groot, Jim Plume, Sandra Lang, Julie Jupp, Mark Fairburn. I don't think Mark's attending today. He's got his daughter's graduation. Lee Gregory, Rosemary Rush, and John Merchant. And special thanks to our administration support. So Lee Franks, who's worked hard with a lot of our CRM and a lot of our meeting minutes and maintaining a lot of the day-to-day transactions that we do in buildingSMART, and also Audrey, who's assisted with our events during the year as well. So the agenda for today, opening the meeting, just go through some apologies, confirming the minutes from the previous AGM from last year. So it's just a formality that we need to do. I'll do a chairperson's report where we'll just talk through some of the highlights of the year. Presentation of the annual report, which most of you or all of you should have received, ending for the year 30 June 2024. We'll go through the election of the new board for 2025 and a vote of thanks for the outgoing board, and then we'll do some Q&A. We'll close off the AGM and we'll hopefully allow some time for some Q&A. So just confirming the minutes from last year that was sent out with the notice of meeting. I just want to get someone to approve the minutes on the board. Does somebody just want to approve it?
I'm happy to approve them.
All right, Julie. Okay, thanks, Julie. And someone second it? We've got Lee Gregory. So we'll say Lee to second it and Julie to confirm. So we've confirmed the minutes from last year. The annual report, like I said, that was sent out with the notice of meeting. So we'll just go through some of the highlights of the annual report and highlights of the year. Firstly, I'd like to thank, particularly for this year, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without our sponsors and our members. So particular acknowledgement to Austroads, who have been a partner of buildingSMART for quite a few years now and continue to be a partner. They've actually just renewed their partnership for the next year. Same with Queensland Department of Transport and Main Roads, TMR, who are a gold member. So it's actually great to have a government client as a gold supporter of buildingSMART. And silver supporters, CIMIC, Dorofis, and Oricon. So thanks to them. And then also thanks to our other corporate supporters. So you can see the list on the left-hand side of our other corporate supporters and our educational supporters. We've actually got two new educational supporters we'll talk about in a moment, who are providing training as part of the PCERT program with CAD-Pro and Bazzini Soft. Some of the highlights of the year, so starting at the international level, I've just listed a few things here just to give you an idea of what's happening at the international level. IFC 4.3, which has attained ISO certification, and I invite any of the other board to comment as well if they want to make any other comments. The launch of IDS, so the Information Delivery Spec. So there's been a lot of work that's been going on with IDS at the moment. We talked about it a lot at our exchange conference this year. There's webinars that have been happening that we've been posting. Something I know a lot of companies in Australia are starting to look at implementing and utilising. So quite a valuable open specification is IDS, and we'll next year we'll look to actually run a few more sessions in IDS as well. The launch of the validation service. So for those of you who aren't aware, buildingSMART International now runs a validation service where you can upload your models. It basically provides a report on the export of those IFCs from particular vendors, and then that's used to report back to the vendors on any flaws or issues with the export from particular vendor packages. So that's a sort of a self-service validation service that provides reporting back to buildingSMART in terms of IFC implementation with software. Updates to the PCERT program, we'll talk about that in more detail in a moment. And commencing the development of IFC 5. So that's something that's commenced this year, the sort of next generation of IFC, and there's a lot of discussion going on that at the moment. There's a lot of stuff available online from recent meetings to discuss that. That's, you'll find stuff on YouTube, on buildingSMART International's YouTube channel. So feel free to have a look at that. So anyone who wants to get involved with the next generation of IFC 5, particularly from our members, just let us know and we can put you in touch with the right people. IFC 4.3, and if anyone else in the board wants to contribute to this, just let me know. So, yep, the Australasian working group that we set up a few years ago that Scott Beasley was facilitating continued this year, just doing some testing with IFC 4.3. Now that it's an ISO standard, it's starting to be implemented. I know I've been involved with a few projects where there have been requirements on there to hand over IFC 4.3. I know they've done it at a very early stage, so there's been a few challenges with that, but that's slowly starting to get implemented on infrastructure projects and starting to be used by a lot of companies as well. So that's something that's starting to develop and take off now, particularly now that it is an ISO standard and it continues to develop with IFC 4.4 and just some of the other domains. So I don't know if John or Jim, if you want to add anything to IFC 4.3 or 4.4 and the work that's going on there.
From my point of view, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yep.
Yep, good. From my point of view, the IFC tunnel work is kind of the final deliverable as part of that program, and that's we're just waiting for the Standards Executive Committee of buildingSMART International to sign off on it so it can be then published. So I think we've now got a full package of infrastructure.
Your microphone's a little bit down there, Jim, but I think we got most of that. Sorry, just in terms of some of the other, I shouldn't say IFC 4.3, but in terms of some of the other highlights, just buildingSMART, I guess, working with some of the other industry groups that we've worked quite closely with over the last year. So we're still an executive member of ABAB. I sit on the executive of ABAB. They have a couple of live sessions every year, and there's a bit of work going on that we're feeding into with ABAB. Working closely with other government agencies, Transport, TMR, Victorian agencies, we're trying to implement open standards properly. Contribution to national standards guidelines and facilitating alignment there. So we get involved in a lot of those working groups. Next year, we're looking to also get better collaboration. buildingSMART International, for example, is developing an MOU with the Project Management, Institute of Project Management. So some of these other working groups that we're just looking to get better alignment with. I've got a meeting actually with Consult Australia and start to work more closely with groups like Engineers Australia as well, with how they're looking to implement BIM, digital engineering, and particularly open standards. We've got an MOU with Women in BIM, which we started last year, actually, and that sort of continues. We cross-promote between some of the activities that Women in BIM undertake and the activities that buildingSMART undertake, and we support each other's events. I'm part of the mentoring program, and I know we've got Julie and others who get involved quite heavily with Women in BIM. So it's great that we are contributing towards improving diversity in the sector. as well. On the education front, I might hand over to Holger if he's online, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm here. You can
hear
hear me?
Holger? Yeah, just to give a bit of an
Perfect.
update on the PCERT program, which is rapidly taken off.
So as some of you might know, PCERT was started with the foundation basic or basis level earlier last year, and the program has now been restructured. So instead of just having the foundation basic, we have now the entry level, foundation level, and then the practitioner and management level. The foundation level is basically the one that was previously called Foundation Basic and has been live since April 2024. And we started originally with one training provider, and now we have 3 training providers. So the amount of providers in the buildingSMART Australasian region has grown, and that's good. So you have a bit more diversity in terms of providers. The entry level also went online in April 2024, which is a free level. So everyone can sign up for that and basically do a bit of research by watching the recorded training sessions, and then go for the exam or the test and get an entry level badge. You don't get a certificate for it. That is only for foundation, practitioner, and management. Then also the PCERT foundation level has gone through a review in terms of the questions. There were a few questions that were a bit misguiding or misleading, so they have been reviewed and adjusted, and these updated questions, they go live on the 1st of January 2025. And so all practitioner approved training providers have been given the update so they can update their training program as well, so that students are prepared for the exam with the updated questions. Currently under development is the management and practitioner level. So just yesterday we have received feedback from buildingSMART International that the practitioner level is now completed for implementation by chapters. So it's now up to buildingSMART Australasia to see in terms of the demand and the resources if we will start to implement the practitioner level also for Australasia in the next couple of months or maybe next year, depending on what the demand is, what the resources is, and so on. The management level is still under development by buildingSMART International, so as long as they haven't completed their basement or basic work, we can't implement that yet. In terms of international growth, so we have now more than 25 countries that are involved in this program, including Australasia. We have more than 190 training providers worldwide, 3 of them in the Australasian region, and we have more than 20,000 individuals who have gone through the PCERT program and successfully did the exam. So the program is growing, and there's high demand, not just here in Australia, but also around the world, and it's keep growing. So that's good.
Thanks, Holger. So yeah, like I say, the program is taking off, and particularly Australia now that we've got 3 providers, other providers making inquiries at the moment, and companies who want to become providers themselves as well. So hopefully, next year you'll probably see a few more training providers start to pop up in Australia and New Zealand. So as well. Some of the other events that we participated in throughout the year. So myself and Holger, we attended the buildingSMART Asian Summit. So the buildingSMART Summits now get split. So there is a international summit, and there were 2 in the year, but they're also starting to do more regional summits. So which is great because it's a lot easier and less expensive as well for us to get to. So myself and Holger attended the Asian Summit. They also combined that with the chapter leader get together. So leaders from chapters all around the world got together. We had 3 days of sessions just talking about what each of the chapters is doing. It was a really great session in terms of collaboration between the chapters, not reinventing the wheel. There's stuff that other chapters are doing that we could take advantage of as well and provide that to our members as well, and vice versa. So they were quite impressed with some of the stuff that's happening in Australia as well. So particularly within the Asian region, there'll be a lot more collaboration between the chapters, and it just makes it easier because we can't always get across to the European summits as well. We can't send a lot of people to the European summits. So what was also impressive there was some of the mandates that have taken place from, particularly in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong government did a lot of the presentations during the summit. And it was quite impressive to see their use of open formats, the use of not only IFC, but some of the other open formats on the government projects and private projects as well. We did look at some sessions on a few private projects that we're really embracing open BIM particularly. So that's really been driven from a government perspective, both in GIS and BIM. So I know I went to Hong Kong a few years ago, and it's impressive to see that the ramp up that has taken place just in a few small years. Same with Singapore, actually, who did present at that summit. So there was some really good discussion there. Jim, I don't know if you want to add anything, but Jim went to the International Summit in Valencia earlier in the year. You got involved in a few sessions over there, Jim. I don't know if your microphone's working, if you want to add anything to that in terms of what happened at Valencia.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit, yep.
should be better, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, it's not much to say. I mean, I went there, and I'm still involved in the infrastructure steering committee, so that's my main contribution. So you've got a picture of me presenting there, and that's in that role. Yeah, it was well attended, and yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Microsoft's still a bit. Your microphone's still a bit down, Jim. It's dropping out.
Thank you.
And then Morocco. So the International Summit in Morocco. So Scott Beasley attended that session on behalf of buildingSMART Australasia. We also, I know there were other attendees. I know Robin Drugamullah from QUT was there, and a few others from QUT who attended and I think presented at that session as well. So so we had a little bit of representation there from Australia and New Zealand. So if you want to know more about those, we've posted some articles in our newsletter and on LinkedIn. I know, Jim, we couldn't completely hear you, but you'll be able to see summaries of those events in our newsletters. And then the General Assembly of Implementers, which is more of a technical get-together to talk about the future of IFC. So John Merchant from Geometry Gym attended that. John, I don't know if you want to add anything in terms of what was spoken about at the General Assembly of Implementers.
I mean, there's sort of 3 or 4 main areas of focus, which you kind of highlighted in the strategic roadmap of buildingSMART International, the areas of focus. So I don't know how many people are aware of how software gets certified for IFC at the moment, but primarily it's been a vendor creating a model and submitting it to buildingSMART International directly to try and prove they could deliver a model to the IFC specification. But it's moving more to instead of a vendor deliverable to a crowd of users delivering and submitting files to be validated on the validation service, and then preparing a report card and proving that a software vendor can comply with this schemas using sort of that approach. And I guess that will improve reliability for users instead of a vendor proving something and then users experiencing something very different. But I guess it will also make it a lot harder for the vendors to achieve that compliance. So it's going to be a worthwhile change, but it's going to take a little bit of time. The other areas of focus were the IDS, or Information Delivery Specification, which you mentioned, and also there's sort of a working group for IFC 5, which is at least looking like it's going to move from, instead of serializing files to step format, to using perhaps another technology like universal scene description, which permits multiple users to sort of submit different parts of a model into one aggregation. So I guess that's one of the challenges or frustrations with IFC at the moment, is you sort of have one source model for a published IFC, whereas different disciplines or different parties might be responsible for different parts. So there's definitely a focus on that with IFC 5 to change about how different people can provide different aspects of models. So yeah, I guess they're the keys from that implementation meeting.
Thanks, John. And I must say, the biggest highlight for me from last year was our Exchange conference. So it was the first year that we decided as buildingSMART to put together our own standalone conference. And what we decided to do was to make it a 2-day session, where the first day is a technical session, so more of a technical training day. And then the second day being more of a traditional conference day. There was a lot of good feedback from the session, really positive from everyone who attended. So we are in the middle of just organising next year's event. So next year's event will be in July in Sydney, or most likely at UTS again. So we are going to use the same venue. That really did work well for us. So thanks to UTS for also providing support in terms of the venue and the sessions as well. So we're just about to go out open for sponsors. buildingSMART members and corporate members particularly get first right of refusal with sponsorship, and also I guess discounts on attending and that sort of stuff. But yeah, really good session. The technical day particularly had really good feedback, and we had Ian Howe come out as the chair of buildingSMART International as the keynote. So for the session as well. So yeah, over 180 attendees, which was really good for our first event. Over 32 presenters over the 2 days. And like I said, we'll look to do it again. I don't know if anyone else in the board wants to add anything to Exchange, but for me, I know that was a big highlight of the year. It took a lot of effort, but it also was a big highlight for the year. And off the back of that success, we actually decided to start also looking at some regional events. So we called it Exchange X, like a mini version of Exchange. And we did our first one in Melbourne. It was just an evening session that ran for a few hours with, you can see on the left-hand side, the agenda that we ran through. So it was like a small version of Exchange, and potentially we will look to do ones in other states next year. So we're looking to do one in Queensland earlier in the year, and then have our main Exchange conference again in July. So yeah, the one we had in July, in Melbourne, had a few different speakers from Arup and Langer O'Rourke and government. And thanks for Arup for providing the venue as well and hosting the event. So over 80 plus attendees, which was pretty good for a smaller event in the evening. But that's something we'll look to do more of next year as well. Having more regional events plus our main event, which I think worked really well this year for us. I don't know, John, if you want to add anything to that. I know you were there down in Melbourne.
Yeah, no, I think you summarised it well.
Okay. Thanks, John. Financial report. We've had a pretty good year financially. We've had an increase in profit. I think I had some notes here. $63,000 increase in profit, which is about a 17% increase on the previous year. So financially, we're doing okay. We will look at how we're going to utilise some more of those funds next year. So we will have, once the board gets together, we'll look at how we utilise that. I think a lot of that, some of the sessions that we had, the technical sessions in Melbourne, Exchange, looking at what some of the other chapters do as well, some of the other benefits we can provide to our members. So we'll start to look at that early in the year. But financially, I don't know, Jim, if you want to add anything, but I think from a financial perspective, memberships have been good. Memberships are also up. So yeah. Anything you want to add to the finances, Jim?
I don't think so. I'm happy to answer questions if my mic's working.
Yeah, it was just sort of dropping in and out. I don't know what's going on, Jim. So now we'll go to the election of the board for next year, and I'll hand over to Lee, who's officially our election rapporteur, to provide the results for the election of the 2025 board.
Thanks,
Lee?
Eric. First of all, thank you to everyone who nominated and went to the trouble of submitting their candidate statements online. In the end, voting wasn't required. As you're aware, we have 9 board places available, and at the closing date, we had 9 nominations. So congratulations to the following who've been automatically elected to the board. Jim Plume, Holger de Groot, Julie Jupp, Eric Bajaya, Sandra Lang, Lee Gregory, Mark Fairbairn, John Merchant, and Aaron Traylen. Congratulations, everyone.
Hey, thanks, Lee. And I've just been informed by John that, Jim, your microphone is okay. It just wasn't working for me. But yeah. So that's great. So congratulations to those who are nominated to the board. I should also mention that Rosemary's decided not to re-elect for the board again. I'd like to personally thank Rosemary for her time and contribution to the board over the last year. So thank her for her efforts, and she'll still be part of buildingSMART and still help where she can and assist where she can. And welcome Aaron to the board to replace Rosemary. So yeah, welcome to Aaron Traylon. So I look forward to working with you next year. So that's it in terms of the formalities. So I guess we sort of officially bring the AGM to a close, but happy to take any questions. Just post your questions in the QA. If you want to speak, we can turn your mic off. I'm just seeing if I can see the questions. Oh, something in the chat there. Oh, I said tongue party. Okay. So yeah, if there's no questions, feel free to contact one of the board, contact us. Just like to thank everyone who's a member of buildingSMART. Thanks for everything you've done and supporting us. Looking to do some bigger things next year. I don't know if there's anyone else in the board that wants to add anything. Otherwise, we'll bring the AGM to a close. Is there anything anyone else wants to add? All good? All right.
Eric,
Thanks.
I'd just like to add a thanks to you for your leadership in 2024. Thank you. And to Holger.
Thanks, Julie, and thanks for your contribution. So with that, we bring the AGM to a close. Look forward to working with everyone in 2025, and thanks for your support of buildingSMART. For the board members who have been re-elected, we'll probably drop off this meeting and join with another link for we'll have our first board meeting of the year. So thanks everyone. Have a great break, have a great Christmas, and have a great New Year, and we'll see you in 2025.